Hey everybody, it's Texas Trucker here, Alliance's Performance Shop, Mopars.com. I've got a lot of stuff going to be happening in the shop, some really big changes, additions, whatever you want to call them. And subsequently, that has further increased my desire and need to sort of get caught up on tool hauls. So the way things work for me, I don't do this for a living. I kind of have to treat it like a job, because otherwise you wouldn't have videos for long spans of time. A lot of you might have a YouTuber you watch, count on the videos for entertainment, fall asleep, whatever. And I try to maintain a schedule is essentially what I'm getting at. And subsequently, the way I have to do that, I sort of have to come out and crank crud out, and sometimes I just record, and then I've got it ready to edit. And the downside to that is I get really busy at work sometimes when I don't have free time, and or if I would have had free time, it's like hellaciously cold out here. Last night, for example, I just couldn't last. It was like 20 something. And I just progressively got more and more cold and had to kind of call it a wash. But I do, when it's something I think is like super new or super exciting, I'll try to always expedite it. Some of this stuff I personally find really interesting and exciting. I don't know how much that would translate over, but bottom line, like when I record this, it's like I have a stack of videos, right? Because if I don't, there would be those lulls. You know, some of your favorite channels, you might be like, man, it's great, he's cranking out like 3 videos this week, and then they disappear for a month. I try to avoid doing that. And ultimately, what that does is I have to have stuff recorded. I try to go chronological, so if you ever did look back on it or start from the beginning, it's like, oh yeah, you know, this guy didn't have jack anything. Now he's got some cool stuff. I sort of try to build it in that manner. And it is what it is. So sometimes, you know, like this stuff here is from September, and I'm recording it in February, and you'll probably see it in like 6 to 12 to 15 months, you know. So it is what it is. If I don't do that again, I'm one of those guys that just disappears for, you know, 4 to 6 weeks, and you're like, oh geez, I guess he's quit doing videos, and I come back. And, anyway, we're going to quit rambling. What we've got is a KC Tool Haul 120. We took a look at those sweet little Wera screwdrivers, both ratcheting in design, one magnetic, one with a wrap adapter. Again, definitely check those out. Somehow, even those were new and have that same sad story, like I wish I could have shown this to you sooner type of a thing. I still kind of think they're under the radar. Some of this might be too. As always, if you're new here, I do timestamps. I do everything backwards. I don't do clickbait. I don't do deceptive thumbnails and titles. I don't do like links that get me paid. None of that. I'm old school. And again, if you look at my channel, it's been here a long time. I'm not one of these like new channels. And does YouTube treat seniority with respect? Absolutely not. So, the timestamps, that kills watch time. I don't care. If you see the thumbnail and you're like, man, I really want to check out Tool B, you can go find it in the timestamps. If you watch the whole video and you're like, I'm thinking about picking that up, let me see this dude's thoughts on it again, it's all there. So, all that is done for your convenience. It just takes more time on my end. But I think what we're going to get started with is the freebies. We're actually going to do those for a change. So, again, this goes back a while. This seasonal is now totally irrelevant. This bit of things has now been upgraded to a Wera with the red banding. This one is from Witte. Witte, whatever you want to say, Witty. I still kind of wonder why, as bad as people butcher Knipex, you know, I kind of wonder why nobody's witty or white, you know, maybe type of a thing. But anyway, you get that. $75 gets you free shipping. $100 would get you the German tool sticker pack, but as you may recall, they've upgraded to the mystery sticker. Have I looked at this? No. It's been sitting there since September. So we got a lot of them, and it's really hard to keep tabs on them. But if I can get my thumbnail in here, we are going to see what we got. Hopefully it's applicable to the tool haul. It's not. So, Heiko fans, I do apologize. If you were excited, you're not going to be seeing anything. However, if you've been sleeping on KC Tool for a while, maybe you like accrued an insane number of German tool sticker packs, you got something to go for here, something to collect, something that you might like better. You got the traditional logos. These are sort of, black themed holographic, straight out of a 90s, baseball, basketball card pack. So, and yes, I did that stuff as a kid because my grandma was into it. Yeah, crazy story. Something you like better is this. And if you're like, man, where's the packaging where you can complain about not getting a sticker? It's coming. But these are pre-existing items. These are from Wera. These are their famed Hex keys, or L-Keys as some people call them. These are the ball end Hex Plus profile. Fantastic. I am able to do so much with these at work with fasteners that you would think you would need like an extractor or an RBRT type of a bit, and they just function. It's crazy. If any of you are machinists, you have to set things up, take it apart. A lot of times you're going to have, of course, countersunk flush mount stuff. So what do you have? You typically have hex profiles. The things that are so rounded out, I'm talking like long Bondus Elkind, old half-inch drive, hex bits that are turned with a breaker bar that just everything's mangled, like these will take out. Some of you veteran viewers of the channel are like, wait, what's that yellow clip? That's SAE. What's the deal? Yes, this is SAE in the clip holder. Going back to German tool reviews, again, highly recommend you check out his channel. If you like what I do, he's much more concise, and he does the comparisons and contrast and reviews people seem to prefer. But one of his gripes was always like, how come SAE is in the pouch, which I prefer, and I can't get the metric in a pouch? You're thinking, that's right, you said the same thing. Where is your pouch? I had to just completely take that set to work. So at work, I have my pouch of SAE L-Keys, and then I intended to have this for comparison, but I was going to have the metrics for symmetry, like balanced left to right, just visual, aesthetics, if you will. And I was like, where the heck are they? And I was like, man, I don't know what I did with them. Do I have them sitting out somewhere? I was trying to think of the last time I did it. It was probably headlight bulbs, so the tiny, tiny stuff. And I was like, I wouldn't have left that out doing just like headlights for somebody. And then I remembered, I was like, I did take them to work. And I guess that was my only full-size set of Wera metrics. So at work in the cart, I've got my pouched SAE and then my full-size metrics. So if you're sitting there and you're thinking like, man, where is this going? Is there like some new Wera L-Keys or Hex key profiles I didn't know about? No. But I can tell you sometime around late September, KC Tool had a big Wera sale, and yes, I cashed in. So, right here, these are surprisingly expensive, these half-size, smaller sizes, if you will. In fact, you can oftentimes get the full size. I guess it's just like a quantity and manufacturing thing, or maybe just greater demand, who knows. But you will often be able to get the full-size L-Key cheaper than you can get these smaller ones. Go figure. But this is Wera's part number 022641. You can also find it under the 950/9. It is the Hex Plus, again, that's very important, multicolor Imperial, in Wera's vernacular, 3 L-Key set, black laser, 9-piece. I think street value right now, because I did price this out recently, not my sale price, $50.60. So again, sometime in that era, KC Tool had a big Wera sale, not just like a quarterly thing that you don't see, like they emailed you and said like, hey, select Wera stuff on sale. And who am I to deny the call? So, right here, real quick, just the set contents in case you need to know. Who knows, some of you Euro people might have like some old American car and you're like, I need a 3/8 and a quarter, and you just curse the sky. This has you covered. We're going to start 5/64, 3/32, 1/8. That's a big one. 5/32, 3/16, also heavily used. 7/32. I've had to use that out of this big set. I cannot recall on what, but that's not very frequent. 1/4 inch, very, very heavily used. 5/16, heavily used. 3/8, heavily used. I believe this right here would be your overall length in millimeters. Again, Hex Plus profile is fantastic. If you want like a detailed synopsis of that, I would recommend German tool reviews. So, right here though, we're going to crack this thing up. And again, Wera's packaging, very modern, fancy, if you will. Doesn't come in just a bag or anything. You'll note the yellow clip. That's going to, again, coordinate. If you just stared at these in a drawer and you don't know your Take It Easy tool colors or something, if you see yellow, you're like, okay, that's going to be It's going to be the SAE, the Imperial stuff. So it's basically what we have here, just sized down. There's the comparisons head to head. There it is stacked with the metric. And I don't get to complain about not having a sticker because they included one. All right. So, very important stuff there. I'm going to get this out of sight, out of mind, so we can have some symmetry here for you people. So, I don't know that I need to go into great detail with those. Again, I would recommend the German tool reviews video. Do I get a dime from that? No. He left, unfortunately. Has, I believe, arthritis issues in his hand. But again, it was very scientific from an engineer perspective. Put a lot of time and effort into his videos. And he basically walks you through why he preferred the Hex Plus profile, and that is essentially the Cliff Notes I will use to say why it's good. Best real-world case I can tell you, again, picture some ancient, I don't know, like 12-inch long, I believe most are Bondis, on the end of, you know, an old school Armstrong breaker bar, and that's a lot of what we would use on the lathes. And you come in and just the ends, like the ends match the stripped out fastener. All right. And if you looked at it, you'd be like, oh geez, that's going to be a nightmare. And somehow brand new pristine Wera Hex Plus profile turns it. I can't explain it. I just do it. And that is exactly why my full size SAE set in the pouch is at work. These were picked up on a big sale too. And I'm going to check and make sure I don't like really have the full-size metric somewhere, but if I don't, I'll be waiting for a similar sale and I will cash in on that as well. So that is item number 1 in the books out of the way for us. Item 2. This is, to me, a big deal. I don't know, like most people would be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you held this back from us. But I had another situation here. We're just going to go right for this, all right? This is from Hazet. It is the 811 BH. There's multiple flavors of this thing. This one's going to coordinate with 136 millimeters. 3780 is the standard price. You can often find these for a steal. And I have no idea where it is. I don't know if it's in a vehicle or I have it like locked in a different box. I've got one at work. I absolutely love them. And it is Hazet's kind of like a standard full-size screwdriver handle coupled with a lock. Now the previous iteration, which I really wanted to show you, but I can't when I don't know where it is. I think I even had 2 of them here at the house. In addition, I don't know what I've done. But I'm going to tell you right now, it just holds the bits so good. Especially when you run, you know, like 50, 89, 100, 125, whatever. Like if you're a bit holder person, you know, the longer you go on your end here, the wonkier it gets. And then like poor fitment here, you know, like we could be coming out 5 inches, but poor fitment here impacts everything. Even a standard little half cut bit, 1/4 inch bit, everything. So I've grabbed a random bit of things and I'm going to do this. You've already seen me with similar ends like this. Note, I did not articulate that collar, okay? This is one of the upgrades, one of the improvements. Bit is here, bit is in. These thumb and finger had nothing to do with it. It is still, despite not having the cool knurling, which I kind of preferred. I do love the color splash, but the knurling was great. That has virtually no play. The reason for that, I'm not sure we can see down in there, but we basically, if I can take this tiny non-Hex Plus profile L-key, that's holding, and it has nothing to do with the collar. That's magnetic, all right? So you've got magnets in there, that's good. But we also have a detent system, and it's apparently just one ball, but it's at an apex corner instead of a flat. It is just absurd. Again, I would hope if you watch my channel, you picked these up years ago, because again, I'm going to give you this angle here. Again, nothing was done to the collar. There is just zero play in that. It is glorious. That said, you're thinking like, okay, this is going to be one of those little tiny things, right? But wait, he did say full-size handle. Yeah. Now, I know what you're thinking. You expected to see a little bit of teal, a little bit of black, the Hazet logo. This is the updated handle style. We first saw these, this is an 811, we kind of saw them in the 810s, you know, which is sort of like the small size. Those are also fantastic. They've updated it. Did we need to pick this up? If I didn't do videos, I still would have bought it because I like it that much, especially if I can't find all the ones that I have here. But this is just fantastic. And again, if you bought this or the small one first, maybe you did the small one first and you're like, man, I really do love that thing, this is your new ticket for a full size. Again, if we were to grab closest handle to me is this Ghidorah that's broken, you get the idea, right? This is just a standard handle. We'll be able to do a really good comparison to that in a second. Now, in terms of ejection, look at that. I just pull down. These, I've had one tool that had 2 bands wrapped. That's clearly just a, you know, shouldn't have happened type of a thing. But I love it. Again, hands are going to go way back here to the hanging hole. And check this out. If I can see what I'm doing and line that up, we'll get it nested. Well, it's all in one. But again, now the hands come up. There you go. This is so easy to articulate. Such a ridiculous hold. That's really the selling point. Number one, I do like the handle. The color schemes have grown on me over the years. Ignoring aesthetics, ignoring like, you know, this is a nice handle, good spin, good feel, dexterity, all the boxes seem to check. This is what sells it. Like, this is phenomenal. Again, we do not have to pull this down and push it in and then shoot it up. It's just one-handed operation, right? So, super fantastic. Again, if you see this and it's not on sale, and it's not like a must-have, gotta-have-it type of a thing, give it some time, check the price frequently. Aside from tool of the day, you might walk into a really good deal on that thing. So, I told you, sort of as a teaser, we'll be able to do a really good comparison to a handle here. Just for the sake of it, yeah, it's probably close to a number 2 Phillips, a T30 from Witte. So you kind of have that comparison, right? This will give you no doubt what you are looking at. We've got Wera's 811 PH2. This thing is 1607 with no discounts or anything. You're thinking like 811 PH2. So what bit holder is that? Stop complicating things. It's so simple. So again, 811 PH2. You can see right here they've got the 810. That would have been the previous number. The 810, that handle style is gone. You can probably still find some places with stock. They're probably clearancing, or maybe they just don't move them or something along those lines. But this is the successor. And it, if you haven't figured it out yet, is going to basically mirror that guy, but be a standard number 2 Phillips. So, as I still have yet to do my full-on driver videos, I just constantly find myself having to sort of like upgrade and continue the additions. So this is our first. I wanted to just get the full set of them. They also do have a striking cap. I've never seen a striking cap set available, period. I'm not sure they've ever had this one. But if you know anything about Hazet and their screwdrivers, you will probably think Slovenia, and that would be Oplast, and they do a phenomenal job, at least in my opinion. Fit and finish is really good. I've gotten to where the Hazet bits, I just really like those. And if you recall those, they've started having colors and bands and stuff. This is one of the things, aside from the obvious changes to the handle. Look at that. What is important here? Well, like, it's red for Phillips, and it has 2 for number 2 Phillips to indicate what it is. So if you store this in a rack, you put it in a bag of some sort, if anything top down, without saying the tip, you know what this is. Very Wera inspired of them. Witte, my little Torx driver I had, does the same thing. The ball grips from Wera, if we come over here, same thing, right? Yellow means what? Slotted, and then you've got the size. So this actually mimics what Wera does in terms of the red being Phillips. But what I love, if they just had a 2, not to bash these or anything, but, you know, there's a red 2, and that's going to be a number 2 Phillips from Wera. This tells you PH2. That's important because you will oftentimes have PZ2 or POSI2, right? So, really like that. It's got the hanging hole. These are a little bit more volume in the hand. I guess it's sized maybe a #1 Phillips. Again, if I had the full set, I could get you a very accurate comparison. This is sized down, the bit holder. Bit holder to the #2 Phillips. This is a larger handle. Again, they size that, you know, what they think you'd need for torque and everything for the drive size. This, it's not a huge driver. I could see people not liking it, particularly if you prefer a slimmer handle. This is just like really good size, especially for something, Lord knows what tip or bit you're going to run in it, right? The spin is basically what I'm getting at. Like, just the flow of that is a little bit better than this size. However, look at the ribs, look at the contours. They've done some nice stuff here. You've got a little bit of dexterity. This looks just decorative. These lines sort of cut in. I assure you that is not. You actually do get good feel there. It kind of helps you facilitate spinning. Very, very nice upgrade there. Again, at some point in time, I assure you, I have a litany of glorious videos planned. It's going to be pretty neat. But I'm torn now on throwing in the final item or making a standalone. And I think what I'll do is just throw it in. And what we have, if you want greater detail, I can show you. I'm also stupid excited about this because I might take it to work. It's going to look like I've opened it. I have not. I have not opened this. I want you to know. I was thinking this was like relatively new. If you purchase exclusively through KC Tool, you will probably have no idea this existed until around the time I bought it. They basically got one in. I'm the guy that bought it. I don't know if they've replaced the stock. Okay. They probably did. I hadn't really kept tabs on it. But what I can tell you is I just pulled my page up. I've been through this with Witte, right? And I've come in and I've tried to get their pliers, like the black and the blue handles, right? For a long time, I've talked direct to the company, you know, stuff always like happens and it fizzles out. This was something that I found, and I've just had the tab open all this time on my phone. It's from the 2018 catalog. I kind of want to say it was probably new in that era, like 2018 to 2019. And what we're talking about is part number 468021. Street value on this thing, $47.75. Kind of spendy for one big reason. But again, keep tabs on it. Maybe catch it on Tool of the Day. You can pick it up much cheaper. It is this little gem right here. Again, I know you're like, that's what? No, you haven't been into that thing. I have not. It's just, sometimes you get stuff that's like content settled in shipping, right? I can only assume that this end would run through the packaging here, and I assume this should be different. If KC Tool made like their product video, it's very possible, since this was like in and I bought it immediately, that this was the video used in the product video, right? Who knows? But like I said, KC Tool did not have this in the lineup until around the time I ordered this thing, despite the fact that it was relatively new in 2018, right? So I guess it has to do with, you know, like VHA, you know, them parting ways and sort of filling the gaps there. Added quite a bit of VIT stuff since that time, if you don't keep tabs on it. The downside of this, I'm sure you're like, oh Lord, I love this, or, you know, I finally realized my Matco screwdrivers are made by that company, man. I can't wait to see how good this thing is so I can try to get it from my Matco guy or something. Well, the biggest first downside to this is not made in Germany. It's not made in Slovenia. It's not made anywhere near there. It's made in Taiwan. It's not necessarily a terrible thing, especially when you consider, like, I just got a Mac ratcheting driver a couple weeks ago, made in Taiwan, and that thing is phenomenal. Okay, so it's not that they can't make good tools, it kind of takes away from what you thought this might be, particularly when you look at the price point. You're like, oh man, you're like almost $50 for made in Taiwan. Just like, geez, yeah, that's kind of where I go with it, right? Like, if this was made in Germany, $48, sure. Made in Taiwan, I'm looking $29.99 and gonna buy it on sale, right? So that's it. It could turn out to be phenomenal. I truly have not played with it. So the big things here, we're gonna go with their packaging highlights. Again, here's just a nice side profile on this one. Come around here to this point, I think English is second. Screwdrivers with ratchet and integrated bit magazine for up to 6 bits. Right here. Yeah, I know, some of you got some ideas there. Convenient magnetic holder for attaching small metallic components. And then right here you've got sort of your bit end. Quick change bit holder. Combines rapid bit changing and secure locking when using the tool. The bit is not released until the lock is disengaged. There's some information, contact stuff for VIT. Coming around over here, this is exciting to me. I'll tell you why shortly. It's got an integrated bit magazine, 6 high quality. So these are actually going to be German-made bits, not Taiwanese or anything. Bits spread out conveniently when the magazine is opened. The magnetic mechanism holds the bits in place to make it easier for you to pick the one you need. There's the ratcheting function, high quality metal ratchet with locked anti-clockwise and clockwise positions. So if I can open it, so again, I truly have not played with this thing. So it's just been sitting there waiting. It should come out easier, I think, with this plastic on it in there. Alright. Good lord. This plastic stuff. Out of my life. Okay. First impressions. I love the color scheme. We saw that in the packaging. It is heavier than I thought. Not the best balanced, but not egregiously bad. Surprisingly decent spin for something this size. Usually with anything ratcheting, particularly anything with bits, it gets bloated, cumbersome, ergonomics thrown to the wind, sacrificed for bit storage or something, right? So, first thing we're going to do is check this out. This is kind of cheesy. Like, I say that, I would just have liked knurling. In the packaging, I thought this was just like striped. I could not figure out what they were thinking. Now that I touch it, you do sort of, I'm able to put a thumbnail in it, so I guess it's a very small ribbed area. So it does provide a little bit of grip, but the knurling, like we had on the previous Hazet, would have been like my preference. Now, what have I done? I've got that bit here, so let's just, boom. Do you see how that's one-handed, even with the absurdly strong magnet in there? This looks to have a magnet. We'll do our thin L-key test. What are you holding on to? Apologies, we picked up a free rider. So yeah, free rider is now gone. Magnet, check. Not as strong as the Hazet already. Now, is this really rapid? Here we go. Yeah, went right in. There is play here, but if you pay keen attention, not to my fingers, move your attention closer to this ratchet mechanism. I'm turning the whole shaft. Okay, so if I hold the shaft, not as good as the Hazet, but surprisingly decent. All right, that's where I'm going to stake my official claim. Now, put it in conjunction with this, which is locked, by the way, like I cannot ratchet this. Leaves a bit to be desired and kind of makes me question the ratcheting functionality. Now, thinking like, okay, that's a weird ratchet switch. It's not. The ratchet itself, if you look down here, is going, if we can see those arrows, right? So center lock, this way, that way. So that articulates our ratchet. This is okay. It's not the most confidence-inspiring. Like, I'm not sure I would want to be breaking something free with this. There's just a little... I don't think the audible clicks tell you the story. But for me, turning this with the slop and the pickup, I've definitely handled better. Alright, I'll just leave it that way now. Check in this direction. Maybe a little bit lighter, which I don't like. I prefer consistency. Can you tell that in the sound? Like, does this seem louder to you? I think it does. Maybe I'm crazy, but to me, audible differences there. So ultimately, it's one of those things. I've got to use it, see how it stacks up, if it holds up type of a thing. I do not like the play that I see there. But you're thinking, and get back to that switch, moron. What does that do? You know, come down here, show us the bits, show us the bits. Well, how do I do that? Well, oh, Okay, interesting. Very interesting. This is the first time that has come out, and boy, did it come out with authority. Let's see, we can just shut it, so that's cool. Here I was having the time of my life, and we were timed out at 29:59. So, don't know what you missed. All I did is set this up, and as I looked down, making sure this was framed, I saw that I wasn't recording and was talking to myself. So, are you ready? I've placed a Harbor Freight marker here. Yeah, she comes out with some violence there, you know, I tell you. Be leery of that one. Clearly the bits... they're held in by the tips there. This, as I turn it this way, you'll note the ones hanging out aren't going in, despite the presence of a magnet. If I manually do this, we kind of got like some fighting bits here. Okay, you know how magnets are, and you try to put the two ends together. The force field prevents you from doing it. That's what we're running into here. And this kind of makes me sad because I will admit this is cool that it's like a carousel and turns, you know, so you can pick it out. I will just straight up tell you, the VHA bit holding screwdrivers, which why they don't have a ratcheting one, I don't understand. But 13-in-1, 26-in-1, whatever it might be, they pop out and they kind of have like the plastic tabs. One of my thoughts, and at the time I had no idea this existed, in fact I don't know if this did exist back that long ago, I thought, man, it would be like wicked cool if we just had a magnetic carousel. And clearly someone else had that idea, and here we are. But if I were to have prototyped one, I probably would have come across this issue, right? So case in point, 5 bits are out. You've got 1, 2, 3, I'm sorry, 4. Where is bit 6? What am I not seeing? Are we missing a bit? We are missing a bit, right? Now, this is a KC tool. No, that's VIT. Okay, I don't know when that went away. So let me get it back in its slot. So it's kind of in check there, right? All the other 4 are fanned out. So watch this. When I put this in, and I put this in, now that one's out. I put this in and it doesn't want to go. And that one pops loose. So I push it down and that one pops out. I push this in and that one, you see what I'm getting at here? The good news is you can just frustrate it and slam the thing and then it can come flying out and spit bits at you. So, personally, if I would have built this and prototyped a magnetic carousel like I'd come up with that I thought was original and never been done, I would have probably come across that issue. I would have fixed it. I would have found some way to combine. Because the issue with the VHA stuff is the plastic clips always break, right? This is a little awkward, I'm not going to lie. Now, something that, yeah, geez, this is, I don't even know where that went. Here it is. Something that sort of bothers me as well. I'm just going to smash that in there, I don't care what happens to it. This, you think like, oh, that's so great, I'm going to put my screws there. I don't know about you. But when I use a ratcheting screwdriver, keep in mind this Mac that I just like spun the ever-living snot out of, I was building, you know, office furniture, like, you know. So where am I? My fingers are here. And where does that put my palm? Here. So guess what I don't want here? I don't want anything. I don't want a screw. I don't want a nail. I don't want a tack. I don't want a bit. That's going to serve virtually no purpose for me aside from like, oh, geez, the screw fell. I'm like, oh, that's convenient. And I pick it up. It's like a retrieval. Maybe you're different. Maybe you daintily hold your ratcheting driver here and don't articulate it and your palm doesn't touch the back. But great idea, but not for what it's advertised for. And you're like, it wasn't advertised for that, moron. It totally was. Okay. So let's say you're turning 4 of those in through some rail or something. I can't imagine that being a pleasant experience with those there. That's just me. Your mileage may vary. Yeah, I don't know. I'm glad I included this here because I would feel bad if I made a standalone video on this thing because it's kind of not as good as I was hoping it would be. That said, though, ignore the bit issues, right? Ignore the slop in the ratchet. If I actually use this in the real world and I'm like, man, this thing's actually pretty good, that offsets all of that. Initial bench impression, I'm like, huh, You know, I don't know about that thing, and it's got some, you know, it's kind of comical. You know, it's nice, very nice, despite half of the bits flailing out, that you can just one finger shut it. That's cool. It does also seem to be secure. That will spin, but I can't open it, right? Let me get a non-gloved hand. Nothing doing. Color scheme, fantastic, at least by my standards. It is easy to articulate the ratchet, even one-handed. It does sometimes jump 2 positions instead of the one you might have been seeking, but minor deal. Wouldn't have minded that being a little bit taller, and without the taper looks good aesthetically, but you know, if you've got like bigger hands or fingers, like some of you giant people, you know, you're probably going to wind up down here on the shaft. But initial impressions, especially coming out of Taiwan, I don't see how I could advocate, even if I did make money off these links, for you to go buy this unless you just, the colors are there, or you're like the ratcheting screwdriver guy and you've got to try everything. But I can't also say don't buy it until I've used it, all right? So it's not like it's egregiously bad. It's just when you've done this for as long as I have and you've brought in all these brands from all over, there are some things that just, you know, don't impress you, right? You know, so again, super sloppy, but it's because of the ratchet. If you get here, this is actually pretty good. You know, it's not Hazet good, but it's pretty good. Let's try to simulate turning some screws. It may not be terrible in the real world. It is kind of a nice profile. Again, I'm thinking top down here because that's what I've done recently. Put yourself on a dash. It's nice. Hex profile, I don't know. I might have preferred something cylindrical with some knurling. Again, a knurling here. Just personal preferences, I guess. This is pretty slick. I don't know if that's like oil from the mechanism that might have run down or something. It's not egregiously bad, but it is something to be mindful of. Biggest issue for me, the ratchet doesn't feel consistent side to side. And just on a personal level, like that's something I look for. To me, I want it to be symmetrical, right? I want it to be the same. If I'm loosening and it's a joy to use, I want it to be tightening and a joy to use. I don't want to be like, oh, this thing kind of sucks, you know, or like, oh man, this thing's awesome. Oh, it sucks. I want to be like, man, this thing is awesome. You know, it's like, oh, geez, I love this. Or even not being a hypocrite, man, this thing sucks. Yeah, it definitely sucks. You know, I want there to be that consistency for me. But I do, again, love the aesthetics of it. The bit storage is something I thought would be really cool until I saw it actually in function. It is kind of neat, like I'm not going to lie, but it clearly has some things that could be worked out and perfected. What I can tell you that is odd with these bits, aside from the way they spawn out and flip-flop, the assortment in this, 1, 2, and 3, Phillips. 3 pauses, 1, 2, and 3. No slotted, no Torx, no hex, no double Phillips or double posi, just Phillips and posi. The reason that's weird, if you come in and look at those bits, they're not Hazet's bits with the collars. They're not Take It Easy Tool Finder bits from Wera. You can easily identify, like, okay, I need the number 2 Phillips, you know, and it's like you've got a smaller Phillips, some slotted ones, and like a hex bit that you never use, right? But when you got a Phillips and a posi and you're looking at them here, it's like, good luck, okay? Just sort of a weird, you just tossed a bit there, sort of a weird bit setup. Now granted, that's very easy to change, and then you can pocket the bits or switch around, pack it out with your own stuff. Maybe you're a PB Swiss bit person, or VHA, or the Hazets. I mean, you can put anything in there that's standard size, but just be mindful of, like, this will come 1, 2, 3 Phillips, 1, 2, 3 posi. So with that said, what I want to know from you, what are your thoughts on any of this? Doesn't matter what it is. It could be the ratcheting bit driver. Some of you, for all I know, like other people bought this thing and you're just in love with it. Some of you might have bought it and been like, man, I sure do like my insert brand XYZ better. Or some of you might be like, man, that is like the second best ratcheting driver I've ever used. Again, I'm not denouncing this thing until I've used it, because it could turn out to be awesome in use, and that's going to matter more. It's unfortunate then on the other qualms or quirks, but until I've got seat time with it, I don't want to like pronounce judgment. But initial impressions, I love the way it looks. I would like to change a few things, and I do wish it was made in Germany at that price point, right? If this thing was like 19 bucks and I got it on sale for $9.99, all of a sudden my complaints aren't as egregious. I'm like, you know what, for 10 bucks, I'll take it. But at that street price of 48, it's kind of like, yeah, I don't know, man, Taiwan, and then little quips here and there. So if you've used it, what are your thoughts? If you're just seeing this video, what are your thoughts? What would you compare it to? Similarly, what do you think of Hazet's 811? Again, I had wanted to make a Hazet 811 masterclass video long ago, but it took me so long and so many like spans of weeks to months to like get the pieces I wanted to showcase because they weren't available. It just kind of didn't happen. So I'm still going to do it, and you'll see in the coming tool hauls we have more from Hazet, particularly this lineup. But like, I had this great idea, and it's like, if, you know, Hazet had me as an ambassador, or KC Tool got hooked up with these like 7 starter kits, disperse them amongst your faithful followers or something to get the word out, I would have done it. I tried to do it as an individual, but the problem is, like, when I'm like, oh, cool, you know, like I said, I still don't know if the striking cap sets. There's some stuff I don't want to talk about, because if you wait on these videos to see it, you might be like, oh, that's cool. And I don't want to ruin surprises. But just know that, like, I try to do this cool stuff, but sometimes, like, this comes in immediately, and then you're waiting, like, 4 to 5 weeks to get that, or vice versa, right? And then toss in the more stuff there is, right? Like, I'm sure they're thinking, like, okay, we're going to sell a metric crud ton of our new drivers, but then people already have this, and it's gonna, let's slate production back on it, right? There's a balancing act they have to do and try to figure out, and then as me, like, the guy, like, wow, you know, all this stuff is awesome, and I'm like, I'm gonna get one of everything, and then it's like, well, I can, but I have to wait for them to make one of everything, you know, and then it has to go across the ocean, you know, and then it like has to come to Texas, and time, man, time flies, I tell you. But if you have used Hazet's 811 stuff, like if you just got into German tools, you might have jumped in, you don't even know anything about the previous handle styles. Like, if this is what you saw, you're like, what? You know, I didn't know they had multiple handle styles. This is awesome. Or I got this because I thought they were so cool, and I just bought a Porsche, and, you know, man, that thing's awesome, and I wanted Hazet tools because I saw they did factory race cars, and I don't like them. Whatever your thoughts and experience, feel free to tell me. Same thing, have you jumped on the smaller sized? I don't know if they're half size or what. I'm not going to take the time to figure it out now, but Wera's Hex Plus profiles, I think that's pretty well known if you're watching any tool videos on YouTube. Fantastic. And then this little gem here, I have done everything I can to push this in its previous iteration, granted. It is just phenomenal. And you can also, I know this was kind of spendy, that's the street price. There's so many times, I think that's why, in part, why I had so many of the previous style. Like, there were times they were like $14, and I was like, how can I not get that? You know, especially, again, if I practice what I preach, and I'm sitting here with tool of the day for 62 bucks, and if I buy that handle for 14, I get free freight, versus getting tool of the day for 62 and then paying $13 in freight. It's just, you know, that's where some of this accruement comes from. But if you have never tried these, they truly are that good. The Hex Plus profile, again, I recommend you check German tool reviews out for that. And this thing here, I really did, like, I love the way it looks. And I had such high hopes for the driver, the magnetic carousel, and it does turn. I don't know if I showcased that quite well enough, but bits are going to be great from Witte. I'm going to use it before I pronounce judgment. But yeah, that is KC Tool Haul number 121. I do hope you enjoyed. Again, I make these videos as if I would watch them myself. If I just throw this down, tell you where I bought it, don't tell you anything about it, like, I'd be like, man, what a waste of my time. Some people appreciate that, some people hate it. I'm pretty sure the people that hate it have checked out, won't be back. If you found me and you hate it, you're gone too. For that odd assortment of people that kind of are like me, and it's like, I want the details and information. If you have not subscribed, I encourage you to do so. If you do that, you leave a like, you'll help the channel grow. I can release a bottleneck of videos that I have made from Snap-on, which I promised at 10K, which we're not to. And foolishly, when I throw out, like, let me get the comparables here, and I do that stuff in all my videos usually, the Snap-on stuff leached into other videos, and if I release those, it like spoils the Snap-on tool haul. So yeah, one of those deals. But if you haven't subscribed, I encourage you to do that. If you ring the bell, jump your charger across the creek while wielding your incredibly strong Hazet bit holder. YouTube just might notify you we got new videos every Wednesday and Saturday, 9 a.m. Texas time. With that said, I do thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Most importantly, I hope I catch you back here for more from the shop. Alright, bonus content for you. I was curious about this. These bits came tip down. The tips were all into the magnetic carousel, going to go back into the barrel of the driver. So many of them had jumped out and ejected themselves. I painstakingly took the time to orient them like this, which is what I would personally do, because if you did have an assortment of bits, you know, slotted hex, torques, etc., you can quickly identify, like, okay, you know, there's my Phillips, there's the number 2, or, you know, like hex, 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 is that a 2 point, you know, you pull it out, right? So they seem, if I keep my finger here and soften the opening, they stay that way. They did come completely 180 flipped. I don't know if that was the issue. I've not tested this. Hey, they actually stayed there. I do have it tilted up. Let me go full side here. I think that's the way they should be. That is way, way better. And why they pack them and load them tip down when they clearly do not stay is beyond. But a little bonus content for you, and that makes that part quite a bit more enjoyable to use.